Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Namaste Center in Hendersonville, North Carolina. This is February 25th, 2012, and today we're blessed with a repeat of one of our favorite speakers. And Judy Ray, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, she actually, the other day when I introduced her on the radio show, after that I was reading her introduction, Judy said, wow, that sounds like someone I'd really like to get to know. I'm worthy of that introduction. But the introduction is certainly not worthy of her, because I've known Judy for 20 years anyways. We go way back from Florida to here, and we've been good friends for a long time, and certainly been through a lot together. But that being said, many of you may know Judy as being a healing touch practitioner, a Course in Miracles facilitator. You may know her from her Beyond Surgery program. And the last seminar she did here in talk, we discussed the heart math and integrating that. But today it's not about that. So this is something really different for Judy than maybe she's normally taught. And that is about automatic writing. And I am definitely a believer in automatic writing and the power of it. And I really haven't put it into practice in many years personally. So this is going to be a great opportunity for all of us to sort of get our inspired thoughts onto paper and see what comes out of that. But in the meantime, we're really grateful that Judy Ray is here to share with us about not only automatic writing, but other things that may be going on. So everyone, let's give Judy Ray a nice welcome here. So, does that make you feel worthy? Are you feeling worthy of that?
Oh, I still want to meet them.
Exactly. So, Judy, as we talked about in the past, so much of our past conversations, you've been on our radio show a number of times, it's been based more on the healing, the energy work and the healing touch and the other work that you've been involved with for a number of years and you've been very successful with. But today we're going to take a little different angle and something that is I'm very curious about your take on it, and I know that our audience will be inspired and interested as well. And that is automatic writing. And just tell us right off the bat, what is automatic writing?
Well, automatic writing is obviously just writing automatically, and Wikipedia says that it is writing from the subconscious or the spiritual that is actually not conscious as far as content goes. That's a little convoluted. My functional definition is writing without thinking and planning. It's really what my tagline to this presentation is: connections to the infinite. And I consider automatic writing just one of those connections to the infinite. And you can connect to the infinite by connecting to your own higher self. You can connect to the infinite with your source energy, whether you call it God or Buddha or whatever. You can connect to the infinite by connecting with your angels, your guides, a dearly departed one, or again, source energy. I want to, in this presentation, give you an experience of it later this afternoon, but mainly demystify it. Automatic writing has one of these kind of sounds to it like it's only the very gifted and special among us who can do that. But really, connecting to the infinite, Charlotte was just speaking of doing that, you yourself, saying that you don't always know what your message is going to be, but you trust that you're going to get it. And when you get it, you apparently don't sit there plotting it out with a diagram and with 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C. You just allow it. That is automatic connecting to the infinite. Now, if you were doing that with a pen and pencil and paper in hand, you could call it automatic writing.
So how do you start that process?
Well, okay, let me demystify it a little bit further before I go there. Automatic writing has been used in corporate America through psychological types of things and all sorts of things in writers' workshops. You've probably heard of writing with the left hand to access your inner child. That's a psychological use that has been for decades. Corporate America uses automatic writing with both the left and the right hand to access their highest potential and goal setting in sales. Okay, so that's very, very not supposedly spiritual, and yet it is. I went to a writer's workshop, and this is how I actually started it, probably 30 years ago. And I was a writer at that time, and I did those writer blocks things that everybody tends to do from time to time. And we were guided to just simply write, and I learned an amazing concept that I have used ever since, and that is the concept of timed writing, where you do not take the pen from the paper or your fingers from the keyboard. Either way will work. So when you say, how do you get started? That way that I got started is so powerful, because guess what? If you're not allowed to take the pen from the paper, you don't have time to think, and eventually you'll just get into the flow of what is supposed to come through. That's one of the ways to get started.
So you mentioned, so you can do it on the keyboard as well.
I've done it both ways. I have done it both ways, yes.
So do you set an intention? Do you meditate before? What would you do?
You can do it a lot of different ways, and please make sure you're aware that I'm talking about my experience of automatic writing. Someone else could give you some different answers to this. I've done it for a number of years, plus I'm at heart a writer. So it's one of my natural ways of connecting. I have done it around a concept, around a question. I have done it as dialogue. I have done it as what I call extended whining on paper. Okay? And that was one of the ways. I started this process at the writer's workshop. I later, from that workshop, my marriage was in a process of deteriorating as my writing career was expanding. And I started really journaling, because I really was a private person as far as talking badly about my husband or my marriage or anything like that. So I started writing. And boy, I let it go. Whine, 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 complain, 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 and I can't stand this anymore. What am I supposed to do? I don't even know. I wasn't particularly God-oriented at that time, or spiritual. I just was good at whining. So one time, all out of the clear blue, I realized that after all this writing, suddenly the words said, "Dear one, you're not alone. We're here, we're surrounding you with love and caring, but you have been blocking any outside help. It's been very difficult to get through to you. So we're going to try getting through to you this way. Will you listen?" And thereby began something that became a part of my life, Charlotte, in a way I never expected. I went through the divorce, and I was still doing automatic writing. It wasn't whining anymore. I would bring to it, sometimes I'd just talk. Sometimes I'd say, "I so appreciate today. I can't believe how everything went." And then sometimes they'd respond, sometimes not. Sometimes I'd get a name of somebody, sometimes not. So guess what? I started talking about it to people, like I'm talking about it to you.
Right. Well, you know, it also, when you talk about this, who do you think, or what do you think it is coming through, your higher self?
You know, we're talking here about frequency. We all have a frequency at this moment. If you're depressed or in pain, that frequency is going to be lower than if you're in gratitude or joy, right? So a lot of times, you are going to be, with automatic writing, assessing your own higher frequency. Where does your own higher frequency comes? Okay, now we get philosophical. Okay, did your own higher frequency come from just the Charlotte McGinnis stuff today? Or was there spirit coming through it, or do you really know? And if you tried to prove it, could you? So, okay, I mean, if you want to ask more about that.
Well, no, I hear you loud and clear. It's really, I guess there's no proof of what it is, we just know. And have you ever received anything that may have been what you would consider dark, or something that would frighten you?
Not at all, and that's a good question. People say, can evil spirits come through? And first of all, let's see, what's an evil spirit? The Course in Miracles, a lot of us are familiar with that. Course in Miracles basically doesn't buy into the concept of evil spirit. Their word for it is the ego, which puts it back in whose lap. Okay. Quantum physics has another way of looking at it, and that it's only frequencies. So there's no evil or there's no good in quantum physics. It's what frequencies are working for what purpose. And here's something very interesting about frequencies. One of the lowest frequencies that has been measured is the human brain waves when self-judgment and criticism is going on. So if you're worried about an evil spirit in your writing, what you're probably worrying about is defaulting to your normal, everyday walking around zone of self-criticism and self-judgment.
Right.
And to answer more specifically your question, like, has really ugliness and that kind of thing come through? No, it has not. And there's another way of making sure you avoid that, and that is deciding to get your frequency the highest it can be before you begin. And what kind of emotion or feeling might that be? Does anyone have a thought?
Joy.
They're even more specific. Appreciation. You've done hard math. Exactly. Appreciation, the highest consistently measurable frequency of a human feeling. So if you start with that, the likelihood of the low frequency or evil spirits of self-judgment, criticism, or fear, okay, we can project and manifest fear so that it comes through the writing. Okay. But it's not necessary, and it's not going to happen, this group, in the seminar today, okay, because we're going to set our intention otherwise.
Exactly. Well, you know, I shared with you on the radio, and you were familiar with this situation in Florida, but for many years, there was a very spiritual woman in South Florida who used to send me this. There was about 4 or 5 of us, and she actually, I could be thinking about something that was bothersome to me, and honest to goodness, I'd go home, get a letter out of the mail, and this would be spirit written through her, coming through her, answering my questions. And I was like, whoa, that is amazing. So for some reason, she was inspired to share that with a handful of us. Well, what ended up happening was, as I shared the other day, was her letters, all of a sudden, as loving and right on as they were, turned a little bit aggressive towards all of us. And I was taken aback by that, because I thought, okay, how would someone who had been their entire life so filled with light able to have something like that come through? So it's, I would like to have your thoughts on that.
Right, and sometimes, especially as we get close to some kind of a major thing in our lives, which for her was her death, actually, some of her unhealed aspects come to the surface for healing. Okay, she was already channeling through the healing aspects that she had accumulated in this lifetime. It's very possible that she needed, and it's also very possible that you were a willing recipient to, at some subconscious level, help her, and for whatever you need healed yourself.
Right.
Okay. And when I often use, Wikipedia uses subconscious or superconscious and that, I use the term not so conscious, because the other things all have such a definitive meaning and they're differentiated from each other. But when something's not so conscious, you know what that means.
Exactly. Well, and that's such a great answer, because what we've been speaking of here earlier is, you know, this is a time now when all of our stuff is coming up. Yes. And we have to allow that, and even if something may come up that's like, whoa, that's ugly, it's not to judge it, but maybe just to recognize it and say, wow, this is something that I still need to recognize and be willing to heal. So what would you say for someone, how would you resolve something that came up either that would be frightening to someone or seem dark? Would we just work on blessing, or what would you say?
You mean in writing?
If something, yes.
If something came up in writing, I would say a prayer around it. Something a little bit like that happened, not quite. And to preface that, I want to say that my career towards automatic writing then went on, and I had 2 events happen. I lost my daughter 3 years ago to cancer, and then my mother at age 101 died just a little over a year ago. And so I started writing to them. Now, before I'd done that, I was very familiar with writing to specific angels and guides, because that's the way it had evolved for me, and getting answers. My mother, at age 101, you know my mother.
Oh, yes.
All you can say is she was a character. She was high maintenance. Even in writing to her, I said to her the other day, I said, what's it like up there? Are you still a little bit of a brat? Do you still demand center stage? Was that just the human part of you? And she said, you've gotten the main message, sweetie. You've learned to laugh. And I can laugh that way, too. When she first went to the other side, she was a person who did not believe in God, in afterlife, in any way, and she was pretty adamant about it. Okay? So when she first left, I would write to her, and she'd say, it's confusing here. I don't want to come back, but it's not easy up here, and you need to stop thinking of me as the way you knew me in life, because it's limiting me. And so I was getting a lot of that, and it wasn't particularly comforting to me, because, I have a very good friend, and one day we were hiking together, and she said, Judy, I got a dream about your mother. She said she needs help in moving forward and expanding. And so I began to realize that it was almost like she'd been asking me for help with that. So the next writing I did, I said, Dear Mom and all your angels and dear God, I say and manifest this for your highest good, that I see you in light, comfortably, moving out and onward to realms I don't know of, and that kind of thing. And that's what I would do if anything dark came through the writing at all.
Well, it sounds like we're both equally participating in this. It's an exchange when you work with the other side, too. They're calling you for help and vice versa.
When you learn to trust it, it becomes more of it. And it is a process. The first few times that people do automatic writing, often two things happen. The first thing is, this is a bunch of mishmash, this doesn't say anything, and why do I even think it means anything? Don't be so quick to judge. Let the seed plant, okay? Go overnight, and then come back and read it. That's number one. And the other thing is, too, that often, I forgot where I was going with this. What was your question again? Let's call on the connection to the infinite and see where we're supposed to go here. Anyway, there are
mutual healing.
Yeah, the mutual healing. Yeah, exactly. When I eventually learned to trust it, and even if it felt like mishmash at first, I would just keep going. And now I've gotten to a point where dialogue is very comfortable. And it's really funny. It feels like a real conversation now with my mom. And it's interesting. Two things I learned about automatic writing. And one was from my daughter. And with my daughter, what I learned is that you need to have a high frequency to really get the most out of this. Because right after her death, there was such raw grief that I was not able to feel her real presence until after really a couple of months. And then one day I'd gone outside, and she loved nature, and I saw cardinals, and I felt her presence, and I just wrote to her, I just feel such joy. I just felt like you were around me. And she said, now I can reach you. I can reach you when you're already at the frequency that I come through. I learned that from her. What I learned from my mom was that apparently when we die, we keep expanding. Because she went from this, I'm so confused, I'm here, I'm there, I'm this, I'm there, I'm that, to saying words of such wisdom and beauty to me. So anyway, yes, it's a constant interaction.
Well, what just came to my mind, too, is one of my favorite books, I think, is Think and Grow Rich, which 25 years ago I thought it was silly. But then once I understood the real teachings of it, I think it's fascinating. And Napoleon Hill used to mastermind. He would bring in like Abe Lincoln and Jesus. He'd bring in all these, people from the other side and have mastermind groups with them. So I would suppose you could actually tune into anyone, anywhere, living or on the other side, right? Yes.
Charlotte, after my divorce, my divorce settlement was 31 single-family houses that my husband and I had accumulated in our marriage, which sounds like, wow, you're set for life. No, they all had negative cash flows and they all needed work. And so at this time, I was really into the interactive dialogue, and I hired Archangel Michael to be my real estate angel. You remember this, Ellen? There are lots of stories that came out of that also. And yes, I literally did. First of all, I said in the writing, I want some help. I've got to get rid of these houses. I've got to help myself. I'm alone now, and I'm not sure how to do this. I want some help from out there. I want to know what to call you. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask to hear your name 3 times, and if I hear a name 3 times in the next couple of weeks, I'll know it's you. And I heard the name Michael once, and then I heard it a second time, and then I didn't, and I didn't, and I didn't, and I thought, well, I need someone, will you just please, and I got a phone number, it was a wrong number. He said, hi, this is Michael. is this Eleonora? It's the wrong number. I said, no, it's not. So Michael was my archangel, and boy, he told me if I were open to listen. And this is the real tagline of this talk, Connections to the Infinite. Once I became comfortable with the writing, because that is my primary comfort zone, is writing. But once I became comfortable with it, I could do it in a thinking way also. And my mom told me not that long ago, she says, you need to connect to other angels other than me. She said, because you already know how to channel me. Just think it, you'll know the answer. And it's true. And I had gotten to the same way with Archangel Michael. I didn't need to write every night. I could think, Michael, I'm not sure about this thing about buying this or selling this or whatever. And it would just come right through me. So it really is a way out of many of expanding your contact with the infinite. And also, don't forget, you are limitless. I am limitless. Okay? We are infinitely connected to each other and to something way beyond each other. And this is just simply a way of expanding, accentuating it, and believing it and trusting and living it.
Absolutely. So what can we expect this afternoon? We're all going to get into this and do our own writing, I presume.
We're going to do at least 2 timed writing exercises. So you don't need to worry about it in advance because you're not going to have time to think about it, okay? And you're not going to have to share what you have written. It's an experiential. What I'll probably ask you afterwards is to share the feelings of writing it. And 1 or 2 of you may want to share tidbits of it, but we're simply going to go on more of a personal basis, what we've started this morning.
Exactly. Well, so people who may be watching this that are interested in maybe doing it themselves, how would you lead them into that?
I would lead them into 2 major things. Start with appreciation. And it's okay if you're in despondent and despair. You can whine, but have appreciation that there's something to whine to. And I know that sounds funny, but really it's not, because that was when you're going to go the furthest. Okay, start with that. The second thing is start with a timed writing. I like a 7-minute one because 7 is a very spiritual number. It's a number of major chakras. It's a spiritual number in a planetary and cosmic sense. So timed writing, start with gratitude. It's not hard. Be grateful you have a pen. Be grateful you have a mind. You have an arm. Okay?
Very good. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm thrilled that we got to share this and share you in a different light with everybody, because you have gifts galore to share with all of us. And I'd love to give anyone out here an opportunity to ask a question. Do you have a question for Judy? Shy bunch. So, Judy, anything you'd like to close with, or?
Well, just for those of you who are watching and not here personally, you want to know more about this, look for my upcoming book, Automatic Writing, Connections to the Infinite. It hasn't been started yet. That it won't be available. I've said it.
It's done. It is done.
Now that is, and what's your website info, Judy?
www.beyondsurgery.net. Through that you can access all the different things that I offer.
And Judy's new book, of course. Coming soon. So that is definitely, so see, we heard it here first, folks. Well, Judy, thank you so much, and really looking forward to the workshop, and so grateful for all the gifts you bring to not only us, but so many other people. Thank you.
Thank you.